In international trade, a sudden 50% tariff is the kind of aggressive penalty usually reserved for hostile nations. But the United States has just applied exactly that to its closest neighbor and ally, Canada. President Donald Trump made this threat a legal reality on Monday, signing an executive order that finalizes the massive new import tax on a wide range of Canadian goods. The White House's official rationale for the move is straightforward. They claim these taxes are direct punishment for Canadian policies that discriminate against key U.S. industries. With a border as integrated as this one, a 50% tariff immediately changes the math for the thousands of businesses that rely on the daily flow of goods between the two nations. That official economic reasoning marks a sharp pivot from last week. Then, Trump was threatening high tariffs as retribution for the massive cloud of wildfire smoke that drifted over the U.S., blaming negligent Canadian forest management. That if you read the actual legal text of the order signed on Monday, you won't find a single mention of forest management, smoke, or wildfires. Instead, you find a highly specific list of penalized items. The 50% tax applies to consumer and cultural staples, like wine and, yes, even hockey sticks. But look right past those hockey sticks, and you'll see massive industrial sectors left completely untouched. Energy products, critical minerals, and potash, a key fertilizer ingredient, are entirely exempt from the order, which begs the question, why would a punitive trade order designed specifically to punish a neighbor deliberately shield their most valuable exports? To understand this calculated list, we have to look at the stalled negotiations over the trade deal Trump reached with Canada during his first term. This chart shows the baseline before this week's announcement. The U.S. was already levying import taxes of 15 to 35% on major Canadian exports. In response, Canada retaliated with counter tariffs, capping out slightly lower at 25%. The administration selected these specific items, from construction materials to cultural exports, because they generate immediate political friction and clear media headlines. But that strategy of pain hits a hard limit when we look back at the excluded items: energy, potash, critical minerals, and fish. The U.S. economy maintains a deep structural reliance on Canadian raw materials to keep its own factories running. If the U.S. placed a 50% tax on raw inputs, the tariff barrier would spike production costs, driving up prices for consumers. By exempting these resources and removing the barrier, the administration avoids taxing its own supply chain. The list reveals the specific mechanics at play here. The administration is performing economic surgery, trying to find pressure points without cutting into its own supply lines. It demonstrates that true economic leverage is strictly limited by just how heavily intertwined two neighboring economies actually are. Prime Minister Mark Carney issued an immediate and lengthy pushback to the new tariffs. In his response, Carney specifically accused the U.S. administration of acting unilaterally, stating that the 50% tax is a direct violation of the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement. Yet, despite the harsh legal condemnation, Carney did not threaten to walk away from the table. Instead, he vowed that his government stands ready to intensify trade discussions in the coming weeks. To maintain their own leverage during these talks, Canada is actively highlighting their global alternatives, pointing to more than 20 new economic and security partnerships their government has recently signed. These negotiations will establish the new ground rules for trade between these neighbors, deciding exactly what free and fair looks like under a new set of tariffs. The 50% tariff proves that even between the closest of allies, free trade is never a permanent guarantee. It is a constant, carefully calculated negotiation of leverage.